Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this panel discussion. We have three wonderful experts on fintech. So we are very excited to understand what is fintech all about. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with, heard of this, but probably we do not know much about fintech because it's a new technology. So let's see how much we can gain from these three important gentlemen here. So we have Mr. Jiazong Wang. He's working as a vice president of the financial sector office at Qatar Financial Center since 2019. And from his face, you can imagine that he has long period of experience. So I think we'll benefit from him a lot. Then we have Mr. Naif Rashwan. He is actually doing these things in practice, and he's smiling. And then in the background, as you see, he has all those things, fintech related pictures. So he will enlighten us how fintech is changing Qatar and what he's doing. Probably will benefit a lot. And then finally, I have my colleague from Qatar University College of Business and Economics, Dr. Karim. He is heading a project funded by Qatar National Fund, QNRF. Which is on fintech infrastructure. So he knows a lot about fintech when it comes to research and academic perspective. So having these very different types of panelists, I think will benefit a lot today from this session. So let's start first with just to get an idea of what is fintech. So I think I will go to Mr. Wang. Please, if you just enlighten us. We are the laymen listening here. So just let us know what is fintech, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mokhtar. And thank you, DB, for inviting us to take part in this discussion. And I am a banker by profession. I spent a long time working for the Dutch bank, ABN AMRO Bank, before I came here a couple of years ago. And I think fintech is an interesting term because it's a generic term. In my own interpretation, I view all technologies that can enable or improve a consumer to manage their finance or help enable or improve the interaction between a client and a financial institution. All those technologies can be referred to as fintech. And so it's a very generic term. I think it's a couple of features of fintech is probably more interesting than the definition itself. First, fintech is not new. I think if you think about traveler's check, if you think about ATM, if you think about the credit card that we nowadays carry instead of cash, all those new techniques can be categorized as fintech. But of course, with a tremendous acceleration of all the new technologies nowadays, the whole world of finance has become much more exciting. So the second feature I want to mention is actually fintech as a term is not necessarily a technology that emerged from the financial sector. A couple of very important technologies that has huge impact in the financial sector, to name a few, for instance, the QR code, quick response code. It is not originated in the financial sector. It was invented by Toyota to manage their own supply chain and production processes. And for instance, cloud computing that we're now also getting more and more familiar with. It's not necessarily financial sector specific. And the same goes for many other technologies. So the third thing that I want to mention as a key feature of fintech, it often comes from a very unexpected corner. To give you one example, for instance, Tencent, this Chinese fintech giant, their origin goes back to a gaming company. From a gaming company, they developed these messaging features. Eventually, you can donate or reward points to other players. And now it is actually very important fintech players in Asia. So those are the things that I want to share just to form an impression. What are the fintech? What is fintech? what are the key features of fintech. And the last thing that I want to share is actually fintech can be, let's say, categorized into a couple of key areas. For instance, the fintech used to manage wealth, asset management, the wealth tech, or the fintech that improve your capability to fulfill payment tech, or the fintech that can improve your capability to interact with your insurance companies, and the insurtech. And I think like it's very interesting. I like the title of this this discussion session, the future. Indeed, I think the future of fintech is probably the immersion, that all those things come together, that you don't even need to carry a plastic card or even your mobile phone, because you can carry other smaller devices that can be activated using your voice or other biometric features of an individual. So the future is bright, exciting, but also there are many challenges that we are going to touch upon.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll definitely talk about the challenges in a moment. But before going to the challenges, probably Dr. Karim, if you can let us know about the growth of this industry, maybe across the world, how things are changing in different places of the world when it comes to fintech, please.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting. Well, yeah, indeed, as Mr. Wong was saying, fintech is mainly around the idea of applying technology and innovation in general to the financial sector, and see how these innovations and technologies are actually transforming the traditional or conventional way of finance, which is mainly the move of value, everything generated in the move of value, and then you have different products, financial products that emerged. In terms of the growth, since that, finance by itself is it's very well interlaced with many other domains or other industries. So it's very hard to talk about finance if we don't talk, for example, about regulation, if we don't talk about insurance, if we don't talk about investment, if we don't talk about real estate, etc., etc. So given the transformation started to happen, the technological transformation and innovation started to happen in the financial sector, actually it spilled over to the other industries. And this definitely kind of generated a move of innovation and growth across all the other industries. So today, as you may all know, we all have heard in a certain form of a cryptocurrency or another, let it be a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever. Now, these technologies, they emerged first as a technology with a purpose. Regardless what is the purpose, for example, Bitcoin was to have some kind of a decentralized financial system, let's say, or a monetary system that is not governed by a central authority, that is anonymous, whatever. Then you have Ethereum, that they added to this the ability to have smart contracts, and then it opened the door for something we call the decentralized applications that are mainly governed by smart contracts. Then here the different key players, stakeholders, and third parties, they found interest in this, and they took it from there. And there are a lot of investment are happening in this area, especially that the technology is relatively new. So the technology itself is not 100% mature, even though there are a lot of efforts and there are huge leaps that are happening day after day in that sector. Having other type of technologies that are complementing each other in terms of artificial intelligence, managing big data, automation, and all these kind of things that are complementing each other to create a broader fintech ecosystem that is borderless nowadays. So the growth is huge in terms of investment, in terms of science, in terms of even business opportunities. We see also many startups that are getting into the fintech sector, and they are important players because many new ideas are generated by a few minds, and then they are putting things together to create a startup, and then this innovation may grow even more, it may develop even more, and you start with a small investment, and then this investment gets bigger and bigger. So I guess also behind the growth of the fintech is a little bit different from the traditional growth of an industry, because it's not only led by technology, but there is also some other factors like accepting the innovation, adopting this innovation, integrating different types of innovations and to apply it to different services, because the financial service or the financial sector as an industry is huge. It comprises so many services under it. So I believe, yes, we could witness all that. We don't really need to show numbers, but the numbers are on the growth. The careers, the demand for careers in different aspects of fintech, whether it's the financial part or the technological part or the innovative part, marketing part, all these are on the rise. And it could be it could be a good news that we do not even see where the end of the fintech journey would lead us. We can only see there are transformations, and it's even a little bit it goes too fast, that it doesn't give us enough time to digest it well and to put it in the right context, in legal context, to really build on top of that in a proper manner. This is exciting. Definitely it triggers challenges on different on different levels, whether it's on the individual, business levels, organizations, governments, but everybody knows that there is an important and a hot topic nowadays, which is fintech, and things should be done around it. And it only brings promises for even more growth in the near future, in the near and the long future.
So if I can push a little bit on this direction, which countries are really changing this fintech more than others? Like any pattern we can see from different countries when it comes to fintech?
Well, actually, we see definitely we see the developed countries. For example, in the States, if we look at the big projects like Ethereum, who are mainly leading the blockchain with smart contracts technology. Yeah, probably. But in terms of use cases, so fintech has to be looked at from different angles. In terms of technology development, you may have some countries that are developing the technology. Then you have, in terms of use cases, you also have some other countries who are knowing how to adopt these technologies into new use cases. And then you have other countries who are embracing and adopting officially these technologies. So for example, in the United States, yes, probably they are developing the technology. Interestingly, many countries in Far East, in Asia, they are finding new use cases. I mean, during a conference in China, we could see that small shops, they prefer the payment methods that are kind of local, rather than using the well-established networks of, for example, Visa or MasterCard, whatever. So here, this is where you see that the fintech is really getting proliferated at a huge pace. And it's not big companies that are jumping on these innovations. It's like small companies, like SMEs, even, there are new types of terminals for being able to pay with a payment card that doesn't have to be the long process to have a terminal that is attached to a certain bank, and etc. We can also see in Europe, in Eastern Europe, the decentralized finance is kind of a market that is being used for microfinancing, micro lending. I'm talking about countries like Ukraine, Poland, and other countries. For example, Estonia, they are using some kind of blockchains to do formal identity checks and authentication. So there is a project Cardano, which is a kind of also a blockchain project that they are providing, or they're working with the government, I think, of Belarus or something. I guess either Belarus or I guess so, or Lithuania, and they are using it for governmental, proof of for authentication and for authorization. So they're using it even in the legal aspect of things. So even though it's not really financial, but it's a technology that is known in the fintech that is also, as I said, it's spilled over to other industries. So yes, I cannot say really that there are some countries who are monopolizing the fintech industry. I guess every country, every culture, every context has its input to it. And any way where we can facilitate access to liquidity, to development, especially when it's about the financial development or the need for finances to develop something, and to be able to tackle this problem in an innovative way, I guess it falls on the fintech definition, as Mr. Wang was saying. So yeah, I guess this is why it's also a very important topic, because it's open for everyone and everyone has its place to contribute in it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to Mr. Naif. He is doing things in practice, so probably he can also enlighten us a lot about fintech. So if you could just let us know what is the current state of fintech applications in Qatar and what you are doing when it comes to fintech, please.
Hello, everyone. It's really very nice to be with you today, and to be our pleasure as one of the humble companies in digital market. We are trying to innovate in Qatar for the last 5 years. And I have like a special opinion about fintech. We call ourselves in the payment part, we are the Digitech, which I believe the fintech was founded long time ago, like 1400 years ago, when they started to print the money on papers and start to change after that, until it reached in 1967 with the ATM machines, which was introduced by Barclays Bank. And from there, this wheel started the progress of the technology of the innovation of the finance, until a real stand been taken by what do you call them, the fintech companies in 2008 after the crisis, to find new ways to save the banks from the new penalties and the regulations being taken against them. And here is where the fintech companies started to do this innovations to ease things and to take it with new methods. For us as a Nukudi company, we are specialized in really automating the payment or the relation between the bankers and the consumer or the merchant, let's say, in a very easy and productive way and fast way, which they require with the lowest cost. And this is the meaning that we are trying to achieve here in Qatar, is really to introduce services with the low cost on the consumer. And this will never happen unless a real cooperation happens with the bankers or big corporations like Visa or MasterCard, because they are the one who are helping to moderate the payments, which is, we believe in the future, the government here in Qatar, they are launching MP Clear wallet to really to get out of this international networks, and we can do our standards and rating for transferring the money between wallets and merchants and consumers with a controllable environment. And since then, we succeeded to build our first payment gateway in Qatar with full standards and certifications for the last 5 years, and we are fully certified in Qatar, waiting for the full certification with the regulators and legislators. And inshallah, it will be happening soon. We are thinking Qatar to solve and to succeed this fintech projects, which gonna be launching in Qatar, is really to build a real infrastructure. And the infrastructure in Qatar is still immature and young to meet what's happening around the world. So on our own cost and our own innovation, let's say, we started more than 3 main projects. We call them clouds, that we can facilitate the parkings to be paid by QR codes and by mobile apps and connected to the banks or the operators. That a new thing we have add on there in our applications. Also, we started another cloud for vending machines, which we find a lot of troubles for micropayments. Actually, we are looking to solve problems more than to really gain profits in our journey here in Qatar, to pick up the infrastructure, to modernize it and digitize it. Let's say this is the very close way. Really, the infrastructure of Qatar need to be digitized to meet the financial sectors and the technology of innovations of people having their e-commerce platforms or shops or companies. This infrastructure we took on our back. Let's say that we need to build it from scratch, and we successfully could join very big partners here in Qatar, governmental and semi-governmental, to be a partner with us on this journey and really to solve this kind of infrastructure which is needed for any wallets or any solutions to come in the market. They need these channels to be there, to be able really to scan a QR code or to automate the payment or to automate the purchases. And after that, now we are working on a third project, which is really, we are doing many of them, is really to innovate the payments and digitize it in the restaurants. Like now there is a very fashion way that people, they are scanning the menu in the restaurants. And we started a cloud now for restaurants, which is people will be able to scan their table. They can see the menu, they can order it, and no need for any waiter there. Bill is created on the main POS machine of the restaurant. The person from his wallet, he can pay while he's sitting, and he can leave the table immediately. And this is one of the innovative things that we are jumping into it here in Qatar. And I think it's one of a kind around the world is happening. And we hope that in 2022, we are having a real 3 big clouds in Qatar happening and serving the events and serving really to give a real push to the fintech companies to introduce their products, to introduce their applications in a smooth way with the really digital paths and roads, which is needed, more looking into fintech solutions. The fintech solutions, what I look into it, is like an app. An app looks to be connected with a payment gateway and it's done. But really on ground, there is big problems of really solving the infrastructure of micropayments, of day-to-day dealings, transferring money, lending money around. These kind of things is really what should be concentrating on from the new fintech development companies who are trying to enter the market in Qatar or anywhere in the world. Day-to-day fintech steps is needed to be solved and to be legalized and to be in a really low transaction cost. So it will drive the fintech world financially and commerce-wise in a very smooth way.
We'll come back to you again. So let's go to the Mr. Wang, because he is also well familiar with Qatar context. So I would like him to share his thoughts about fintech in Qatar in general. And then I would like to add one more question. If you see any pattern of using fintech in different countries across the world, you mentioned about Tencent in China. For example, I know that China and India are the top in the among the countries when it comes to use of fintech. So if you can let us know about Qatar and then different industries of different countries, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mokhtar. I probably will answer your second question first. I think fintech is fascinating because it reflects also the history of a financial sector of a certain country. I think like US is a very important center for expertise and also for innovation because of its very unique combination of capital, ideas, and the infrastructure. And also US is the original place where many of those old innovation has taken place. The credit cards, so the biggest card schemes, I think like Visa, MasterCard, American Express, you can argue those are the old school fintech companies. So they still control a large part of the payment infrastructure in the world. So you really see that a lot of new fintech ideas in the US build upon the legacy. And then again, like if you look at Europe, it's a very different world. And so there, the innovation hinged upon a couple of new regulations. For instance, the Payment Service Directive 2 makes it possible for new startups and new business models to test the market and collaborate with incumbents. And then Asia has a very different legacy and history. So I think like Japan is a very important economy. Korea is another one, but the most visible one is of course China. And I think again, at Tencent, you see the whole model is very different in terms of how the whole thing comes into visibility. So it has a lot to do with the fact that China did not have the legacy infrastructure and development history. And also the Chinese economy has a different shape. And I think like another area for Chinese innovation are, for instance, the payment gateways to enable merchants, online merchants, to fulfill payments and fulfill collections. So each country, the innovation are very much driven by the available technologies as well as their past and history. And with that, we come back to Qatar. I think Qatar is a fascinating place. It's a new country. It's a very wealthy country. But at the same time, because it's very young and very new, a lot of infrastructure is not yet fully developed. And that offers opportunities for the tech companies that has truly unique solutions and technologies. So if you ask me, I would say the fintech development in Qatar is still in its infancy. We only just got started. So if you look at the central bank recently announced the payment service provider regulation, effective from 15th of September this year. So you can say even in the very familiar field, the regulation is only in place quite recently. And the central bank is still working on the sandbox regulation. And we hope the central bank will announce the sandbox regulation soon. So I think if I summarize the current state of development in Qatar is still in its infancy. You have the possibility, because of the wealth of the nation, you can apply the most relevant, updated technologies to develop a couple of really big incumbents, because Qatar is home to a couple of really big financial institutions. And so there lies the opportunities for both indigenous and international fintechs. So we are very glad to see that a lot of international fintechs start engaging with Qatari stakeholders, particularly the Qatar Fintech Hub. And usually they are driven by two key motivations. One is try to engage with incumbents, the local financial institutions. The second is they try to engage with the potential investors. So we really hope that the international fintech communities continue to explore their possibilities and opportunities here in Qatar. And so I hope this answers your question.
Thank you so much. That's really great. Let's go back to Dr. Karim. So when it comes to fintech, we are talking about technology, but then we have technologies behind fintech technology. So a few names which are popular, especially in academia. for example, artificial intelligence, big data, data science, so automation, robotic automation, all those things are related to fintech. And what we have seen, like many business schools, they are hiring professors on fintech, big data, all those things, which are basically technical positions. So which shows that the importance of fintech in academia, and also the technology like everybody should be familiar with, no matter it's engineering or business. So if you can just give us some information about these technologies and how they are shaping fintech, please.
Well, yes, indeed. Given that now in the term fintech, we're really, we are fusioning the term technology with finance or business in general. So this would require some kind of technical knowledge, indeed, among the professionals. So it's not only about the creators of the technology, who should be only the technical stakeholders in the nowadays. It's also the users. It's also the service providers, and it's also all the other different roles that are around, all the business roles that are around. So you're totally right. So now we hear more and more in the business world some technical words, some buzzy words like, yes, AI, machine learning, robotics. Even though the robotic that we talk about is not really the robot that we used to imagine in the in the 70s or the 80s movies. It's not really the sci-fi robots that we can imagine in Star Wars movies, but it's simply a software that could automatically do what a human would do. These technologies are complementary. They complement each other. Another thing is because since the internet and the use of web applications, mobile applications, we are generating a huge amount of data, and this actually what led to or gave birth to the term big data. The big data is, the volume of the data is huge, the variety of the data, the velocity at which it is coming. There are so many challenges that we end up
I think we have a little bit problem with Dr. Karim's audio.
I think the internet is fighting with Mr.
Yes,
Dr.
hello,
Karim.
can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry. It seems that I had an internet problem. Okay, but I'm back. Right. So yeah, I was saying simply that since we are using more and more digital services like the internet and web applications and mobile applications, we are generating a huge amount of data. So we end up to live in a society that is rich in data, poor in information, because information mainly comes from processing this data. And the challenge here was to use different techniques in order to make use of this data, in order to better understand it, better read between the lines that is hiding inside this data, coming up with information, with business intelligence that would lead to better decision making. And this is what led actually to big data analytics. And one of the techniques that we could use in analyzing this huge amount of data is artificial intelligence, machine learning, depending on different types of applications. It could be by learning patterns from numerical data, from different transactions, from sales, even from marketing campaigns, but also could come from computer vision, being able to talk with a person using a real-time translator, and being able to use some kind of form of artificial intelligence to optimize an investment portfolio, for example, or to make decisions on on scoring a certain credit worthiness of a person in giving loans and mortgages. Definitely all those are applications of different types of technologies. Now, the big data probably could be a source of use, could be a big part of interest in the fintech industry, where then different types of technologies and techniques appear: AI, machine learning, statistics, and programming. This is why we are getting closer and closer in the business world to the technical world. We could also hear about robotics. As I said before, it's mainly about the RPA, or the robotics process automation, which mainly now I can chat with my customer service from the bank, but actually at any time of the day, but actually it's a robot or it's a chatbot that is responding to me. And the thing is that we could clearly see the advancements in the developments in the technology, that few years back, you could really feel that you're talking with an automated system. You know, you were asking a question, and whenever it was falling outside of its expert system or the knowledge base that this chatbot was based on, you could get, I didn't understand your question, please try again, or something like this. Now, you really feel that there is kind of a real engagement, that you feel that you're talking with a person that has some emotions, some feelings, some, you know, some kind of a personal touch to the chat, which increases the satisfaction of users and increasing the trust. Now, definitely, of course, we have other technologies that are really emerging nowadays, like the blockchains and all their own applications. Well, definitely, this is also one of the big technologies here that comes also to complement the fintech picture. So yeah, and probably we will see more and more technologies, and it's not limited to software. It could be also coming to hardware when it comes, I don't know, nowadays we can pay with a smartwatch using RFID, you know, like the contactless, so even the credit cards, which is a kind of an ancient fintech tool. Now, even this, it didn't escape the development. Now we have RFID chips on it to pay, you know, with a contactless payment. Then this opened the idea, okay, now we have RFID chips in smartphones and smartwatches, so probably I can pay with that. And this is what we could see here in Qatar, that Apple Pay now is activated. Before that, if you have a Garmin watch or a Fitbit, you can also pay with it. Soon, probably we're gonna see some other smart devices like smart glasses. Probably you will be able to shop just through the lens of your glasses, or virtual reality, augmented reality are also kind of new technologies where we can sell and buy stuff in virtual worlds, which is definitely going to transform many of the financial and activities as we used to know them.
Very good. I'm coming back to Mr. Naif. Sorry, I interrupted you. But we are going back to the same discussion now. Since you are operating in Qatar, so maybe you have seen many things which probably Qatar can improve or benefit from fintech. So I would like to ask you, like in Qatar, if we come to planning, infrastructure, technology, support system, what are the things probably you would like to highlight? If you can unmute, please.
According to Qatar market, and it's rich in finance, and like it's a complete market with its needs and supplies. But I always urge those new fintech companies, when they come to start their concepts, maybe incubations or on their own finance, to be careful that when he's starting his fintech project, it's not gonna hit the jackbox next day. There is always an update on this technology. It's always a big run after it, and it's costly, okay? And what I wish to see here is really the incubation centers or the regulators or the concerned parties here in the country, or even the businessmen, like I see in some countries, really they go toward these fintech companies and support them with finance, because these concepts, which really, when it grows with a free environment of struggle, let's say, like we have seen so many concepts running dead in some regions and goes very viral and strong in other countries because of being grown in a healthy environment free of, let's say, problems. here in Qatar, there is so many people, they come up with fintech applications and projects, which is really, I feel proud that really this kind of mentalities from locals here in Qatar, and those companies locally could really come up with this kind of solutions and services which suits the country. I've met with so many of them that really they wish that more help can be in matter of regulations and legality, and give them the real push, you know, to grow faster and bigger. And I think this is very easy for, if we can see the government or who is responsible for this, is really to boost. And I really urge the bankers, they should take one of these or a couple of fintech companies under their wings. And we are the future banks, and you have to know that those fintech companies are the future bankers on foot. They're going to be everywhere, and they're going to be the channels for those bankers. If they want to grow and to keep themselves, let's say, in the map, they really to join this wave and really to emerge this revolution within their territory, and to introduce it in a very sophisticated way to the public, and really to invest more. What I say here, really, the bankers in Qatar, they need to open their wallets, the real wallets, the money, and really to invest in the infrastructure and put more tools and more devices for fintech companies. They can deal with it in a very easy way when they are coming with the solutions to merchants or to consumers. This is my really vision, and this is, I think, most of the fintech companies here or application holders who are trying to market it here, they need the infrastructure to go more easy and to gain the fruits in a shorter way, you know.
Okay. So
this is about
that's great. So I think it's good to go to Mr. Wang, because he is a banker, and then why don't you take some of the fintech startups under your wings, or other banks, or any other thoughts you have? What Dr. Knife and Mr. Knife says.
I think it's a very important question, and also it's a little bit of a philosophical one. And I think the more support a company gets, probably the less effort and initiative it takes from themselves to really develop a solution. So actually, I don't really agree. I think I don't really believe in that, you know, unlimited amount of support, policy support, capital support will create success. I think like it's probably almost the contrary, right? You know, you really see that oftentimes you need to have the intrinsic drive to develop certain capabilities, and that will never come from money or support. But I do believe that you need to have a healthy system that is truly effective in generating a positive feedback. So if we, you know, it sounds abstract, but if you look at some really good jurisdictions where they manage to stimulate innovation, they have a functional system where a stakeholder orchestrates, let's say, certain problem statements, like certain issues that are faced either by the government or financial institution. And then the stakeholder, that particular stakeholder, can also orchestrate the potential technology and solution developers to come up with an approach to address those problems. And then the same stakeholder, usually it's the government, and very often it's even the central bank. If you can put money where those problems can be solved, then you have the basics of a potentially functional problem So I think like the key and the challenge is to create a system that solves problems. And in order to do that, I think the government and the regulator has a very important role to play. And in my view, the mentality of test and trial is very important. So essentially, it's almost like parenting. So if you have a parent that is always very strict and telling you what not to do, and then eventually the kids will become too careful to achieve anything. So you need to have a parent that is encouraging and motivate the kids to go out and give it a try. And if you make a mistake, there's no big deal. Particularly here, Qatar is a wealthy country. You need to put the capital to develop capabilities.
Very good. So we have less than 5 minutes to wrap up this before opening for Q&A. I'm going back to Dr. Karim. So blockchain. So people used to know Bitcoin. Now I checked like how many this kind of coins we have. It's like several thousand. And Bitcoin is not the most highest valued coin. This is my surprise. This is surprise to me as well. So if you could just let us know in very brief about blockchain and how we can benefit from blockchain, please.
Well, essentially, blockchain is a data structure which mainly is a distributed ledger. Okay, so you know, when you go to a bank and you open your account, it's the bank who is holding the ledger of the account. So they mainly keep a record of all the transactions that are coming in and out. Now, in the traditional banking system, this is held by the bank, which is a central authority. And they are controlling the transactions by recording them, managing them, allowing them, or blocking them. Now, the idea of blockchain, given that it introduces the idea of distributed ledger technology, or the DLT, it says that no, rather than having one central authority holding this ledger, we are going to create a network of nodes or peers, and each one of these peers are going to hold a copy of that ledger. And every time there is a transaction that happens, everyone on that network would write down this transaction. Now, in order to avoid any problems and any inconsistencies across the different ledgers, which is something that could happen very easily, you haven't heard of a transaction, so you didn't write it down, so it could happen by accident, or it could happen intentionally, where you have someone malicious who tries to write down some transaction that didn't happen. So there are some kind of transaction validation mechanisms. So whenever there is a transaction that happens, these transactions are grouped into something we call the blocks. And at regular or quasi-regular interval of times, these blocks are added to the ledger, which means that this is where they become fixed and nothing can change anymore. Nothing can change them anymore. And it should be kind of unified across all the nodes. Now, in order to do this kind of, to create that block, there should be some kind of consensus mechanism, a mechanism where everybody would agree that this is the state of the ledger now. And this is the true version of the truth. This is the truth, okay? This is the only version of the truth. So then we have different validation mechanisms, whether it's a proof of work that we hear of in Bitcoin, and that consumes a lot of electricity and computation power. Actually, it's just to make it hard to cheat. And if you want to change something in the history of the ledger, because it's so difficult, you need to spend so much computation power, and you need to have a certain amount of control on the network, which is very hard because you don't know who the peers are. You need to establish all this before you are able to hack the actual ledger. Now, the other mechanisms that exist is like the proof of stake, which is the more recent one, even though there are a couple of debate along this. It's actually giving the one who has the most stake on the network, giving that node more chances of creating or minting blocks. In this case, they don't call it mining, they call it minting. Now, anyway, this is the main idea of the blockchain. Now, it started first just to record transactions. With the existence of Ethereum, they launched something new, which is called a smart contract. So actually what I can do, I can run on this network some code, or I can deploy on that ledger some code, which is a smart contract. And then we can do transactions on that smart contract. So one of the simple examples is Mokhtar, you want to lend me some money. So we have a smart contract, and you are going to transfer this money in a certain form of digital money or cryptocurrency or a token. You're going to transfer it in this smart contract, and then I will be able to take it from there. And then it is written in the code of a smart contract that I have to pay you back this amount of money plus any interest rates that we would have agreed on, and then you can take it. You would be able to withdraw it from that smart contract. Now, the idea here is that this smart contract runs on the blockchain. So it's not just something that is just between you and me. It's something that is transparent or visible at least, or checkable at least across all the network, and everybody would validate any transaction that happens over there. So in a nutshell, this is a blockchain, and it's getting more and more into many use cases, and there are so many use cases in analyzing the transactions and the data that are happening on the blockchain. So yeah, this is a very, very quick definition of it.
Very good. Thank you so much. We have run out of time, and let's see if there are any questions coming from the audience. If not, probably we can continue our discussion. So let's wait. Dina, if you are there, if you have any questions from the audience, please let us know.
Sure. No one has typed anything yet. However, we'll wait a couple of minutes and see if anyone would raise a question, and I will let you know. Okay,
very good. So meanwhile, probably we can talk a little bit about, so we are talking about fintech means like finance. When it's related to finance, but on the other hand, when you say blockchain, this is like far beyond financial things, because anything like any contract you can make through this blockchain, which like everybody has who is part of this block chain is part of this contract. They can see and nobody can modify this. So this is like fascinating because it goes beyond fintech. So this is and I was just to give a piece of information, unless you don't know, there's I was checking this unicorn. So there are about 1,000 unicorns across the world. I was checking. So unicorn means the companies which have more than 1 billion value, but the private companies, not the public ones. And I was number crunching, like which industries are booming and which countries in when it comes to unicorns. So I found two things. One is China in both cases. Like the US has highest number of startups, unicorns. Second, it's China. And then when it comes to industry, now among the unicorns, fintechs are the most prominent. So that is my surprise, which I did a couple of weeks ago for one of my work. So it seems like fintech is really booming, probably. So if we consider all those things, the other thing is, like, as we know, all these technologies probably 50 years ago or so, it came from US. We talk about MasterCard, Visa card, PayPal, but now we have countries like India and China. They're not using probably MasterCard a lot. They have their own payment system. They have Google Pay, other things. So there is a big change, the shift from the dominancy of Western countries to these developing countries like India and China. So this is really fascinating. Let me go back to Dina. Dina, is there any questions so far?
Thank you, Doctor. No, we have not received any. So, and we must really end in a minute. So thanks to all of you. Thanks for this fruitful session and discussion. Thanks, Dr. Mokhtar, Mr. Naif, Mr. Wang, and Dr. Karim. It was really fruitful and full of really beneficial information. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone. It was really nice talking to you.
And thanks for our audience for attending. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you. All the best. Goodbye.